Today I'm in the mood to make something out here in the workshop, and I have a few bundles of these wooden dowels, and I've been eyeing them for a while. I have a few ideas of something I want to make with them, but in case you're new here, welcome. My name's Mary, and I love to share the many projects I have going on around here with you all. So let's work on some wooden dowel projects. So the first thing I want to make here is an herb or a flower drying rack. I'm always reminded of my childhood when I see racks like this. Like sometimes I think Mom used to have some sort of rack to hold maybe onions when she dried, onions from her garden. And some of my cousins or Grandma and Grandpa would have, wooden racks like this drying various things. It probably won't be exactly like those, but I do have a plan in mind of something that I think would work. And ever since I've had my herb garden, I've been wanting to make one. I'm going to have to use more than just dowels to make this because I do want my edges to be straight boards. I'm just cutting a board down to the right size of what I want my ends to be. So what I have here are my 4 boards that I plan to screw together, creating a rectangle shape. And then in between the pieces, I plan to put sections of the dowels in, then to actually hang my herbs from. And I have this drill bit here that is the exact diameter of the dowels, and I plan to drill holes in the sideboards. That way I have a place to stick my dowels into, and I won't even have to screw them in from the other side. That way I won't have all of these screws showing on my outside. Glue them in, and then put the sections together here. This will make sense as I'm doing it. They should stay put. Of course, there's always sanding to do when making something with wood, and in this case I'm going to separately sand all of my pieces before I put them together. It's just so much easier that way versus if you wait until you have it, everything fastened together. So unfortunately my dowels are just a little bit too small to fit tightly into my holes that I drilled here. So I think what I'll do is I'm still going to go ahead and glue them, but then I'll take my air nailer and nail them in from this side. I really wish I wouldn't have to do that because I'll have tiny little holes, but I should be able to putty them that you can hardly see them. So my next project is fairly simple. I bought a poster off of Etsy that has trees on it. I wanted something kind of orchard themed for one of the cottages as a wall hanging, and I think it would look really pretty to use wooden dowels on the top and bottom of the piece, but somehow I have to cut a groove into the wood. And I did experiment a little with the table saw, and I was able to do it, but my blade left a larger groove than I really wanted to have for paper. Plus, it was kind of scary using the table saw, to be honest, and I resorted to this multi-tool. The one I have here is Milwaukee brand, and it's also just a bit tricky to use, so I'm not sure would there be an easier way to do this, maybe using a Dremel tool or something like that. But here I'm just clamping it into the vise and cutting a groove into it. First I made a mark so I could go relatively straight. I wouldn't want to do it without clamping it, I don't think, but it seems to work. I'll see how it goes. Kind of sanded everything down a bit, and now I'm going to use some gel stain. Aged oak is the color, to make it darker. I feel like it might be a bit of a challenge to get this poster to stick, into the slit. But I'll try it using hot glue first. I feel like that's the glue that's going to take hold the quickest. I could use like a wood glue or something that would probably hold out better on the long run, but I think it's not going to stick right away, so it's going to be kind of hard to keep it in there as I try to, work it into the slit. So obviously I'm waiting until the end of the video to show you the final results. That's always the fun part. But moving on to a few other projects, I have 3 more in mind. And here I'm just cutting the wood for all 3 of them. That way I have everything cut and ready to go. The one project also has just a common straight board involved too. The first thing I'm making here is just a wooden pegboard. And that is why I have, the straight board for my back, and then I plan to add wooden pegs to hang towels. And I'm even considering having this pegboard in one of the cottage bathrooms, like the shower room. Might finish it with anti-Sloan clear wax to protect it from moisture. Here I'm adjusting the saw to get my slight angle. I do want the pegs to be angled, that way they stick up just a bit, making sure that the towels will stay put. The board that I'm using is cypress, so that's known to be better with moisture also. So I kind of like how this is turning out. I'll explain how I'm doing this. First, of course, I drilled my hole about halfway the thickness of the piece of wood that I have here, and then I also drilled a hole out the back to insert my screw. That way my wood won't split if I drill holes. And then I have these little pieces of the dowels that I had cut at a slant. These, of course, fit into these holes. And first I'll glue them down, and then I'll nail them in place with my air nailer. That way they won't spin around if I put my screw in. The next idea I have here is creating a little ladder that could be used on a piece of furniture, like with a display, maybe setting behind some plates on a buffet with a pretty dishcloth draped over it, or maybe on a mantle or a desk with a pretty paper banner hanging from it. I think it's nice sometimes when you're fixing up a space to have something with a little bit of height to add to your grouping. We'll see how it turns out. The first ladder I made ended up not turning out quite the way I wanted it to. So I ended up redoing it, but I did want to show you this part where I dipped the legs of the ladder in paint. I just thought it added an extra touch to have those leg ends white. So the first little ladder that I made ended up having, straight sides. Later on I opted to go with a slanted look, so that's the one I'll show you as I put it together. I knew I wanted a larger ladder of sorts, something to hang maybe throws or bath towels or even kitchen towels on. And as usual, I'm sanding all of my pieces, my 2 side pieces and my 4 rungs. The side pieces I'm painting white, and then all of the edges of the rungs I'm also painting white. And then I plan to use Mod Podge and apply some pretty paper that I'll print off. Actually ended up buying some from an Etsy shop called Picky Chicken. It's a pretty blue and white design. I should probably switch out my drop cloth that I use to work on. It does look pretty bad with dried paint and whatnot on here. I did end up tweaking the image just a bit. I put a filter called Vintage on it, so it's not quite the vibrant blue that it would be had I just printed it off the way it was. I don't dabble just a lot in decoupage. You may have seen it a few other times on my channel, but I'm always fascinated by it. It's so easy to use in case you've never done this before. I'm just using Mod Podge that I got at Walmart possibly. You can get it at any craft store. Applying that to my surface with a little bristle brush, and then I'm basically just putting the paper on there, in this case kind of rolling it on. And my paper, of course, isn't wide enough. I have to do 2 pieces per rung. And surprisingly, it blends in well enough. I could have tried to align my design perfectly up, with the 2 papers where they meet. I think it's a design that you don't really notice if it's not, perfectly aligned. After this is dry, I will apply another coat of Mod Podge over the top, and that will just nicely seal everything, make it kind of smooth and even just a little bit glossy. Although I think the Mod Podge I have here is matte, so it's not supposed to have a lot of shine, but it does give it a nice surface. It's easier then to, keep it clean versus if you just have your paper. Gotta say, this was a super fun video to make. I hope you guys enjoyed it too. Like I mentioned before, you know, I had these bundles of wooden dowels sitting in the shop, just begging for some attention, and it was just so much fun to go in there and create these things. Nothing fancy, like anyone could do it. So if you ever come across some wooden dowels that need a new life, go ahead, create something with them. It's so much fun. I am wondering if any of you would like to see any of these items on the Etsy shop that I made in this video. If so, please let me know down below in the comment section. It could possibly happen probably later on this year or this winter. Right now we don't really have time, but it would, if a lot of interest would be shown, it's something we would consider, being that we do have some more wooden dowels. And in case you missed the video on some of the fall products we have for the Etsy shop, I thought I'd just briefly show them to you. I have some of them out here in my shed, and then some others I'll just flash on, but these candles are so pretty. This is a larger size in the amber jar. We always had the 9 ounce, and this is a 13 ounce, and it probably looks pretty good amongst the herbs here. And then we also have 2 different sizes in just a regular mason jar. It's this 16 ounce and then also a 4 ounce. And this would probably look pretty good amongst the herbs too. It was so much fun taking pictures of these herbs, gotta say. It's one of my favorite combinations, the whites in here, along with just a little bit of color, green plants, natural wood, so much fun. And then I brought out a body butter. We still have some of these left. We aren't making more fall scents, so it's whatever we have left is all we're gonna make. But this one's the pumpkin spice, and it smells really good. I'm not using it myself. I still have some of the lavender lemon from earlier this year, but I thought I'd save these for you guys. I think we have some more left. And then we have these really cute wooden shapes, which right now MB is working on them. She's doing some staining and sanding. John is also at home today doing some sanding with them. But I think they would make adorable little candle holders. Maybe set a candle on, or a bouquet of flowers. Isn't that pretty? Make sure to check out those items along with some of the other fall things that we have. As with seasonal things, we usually just make a certain amount and then they're going to be gone. As always, I hope your day is going great. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!